DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
This is the DSPN, Martin Devlin. Lachlan Moore not with us yet. He'll be back in a week or so, and that's when we produce the full podcast, which is 45 minutes, 50 minutes or so every single afternoon. Bit of a wrap of all the day's biggest sports stories. If you like what you're listening to, you like what you're looking at, again, click that subscribe button. We're on our way to 5,000 YouTube subscribers. We're trying to get there as quick as possible. We're almost 3,000 at the moment, so thank you very much for that. Again, we're all over social media, Martin Devlin _DSPN. That's Instagram, TikTok. We're on Twitter as well, Martin Devlin NZ. And we provide a whole lot of sporting comment and what's called content these days, commentary, a little bit of opinion about this and that, quite a lot of opinion about this and that. Time to talk some cricket now. Good old mate, Rahul Patil, who not only covers all the cricket for us, he's also the manager of the Cook Islands cricket team, joining us to look at the Champions Trophy, the WTC Final, and that remarkable series between India and Australia. Welcome back. Happy New Year, mate.
Thanks, Marty, and a happy and a prosperous New Year to you too and all our listeners as well.
Well, let's tackle that series to start with, because I know it's dear to your heart. You were born in India, of course. You repatriated here as a Kiwi as well, so you've got a foot in both camps. But when it comes to Aussie against anyone, I think we're all on the other side, aren't we? That series, India had it, you would have thought, not in the bag, but just off to such a great start after Perth there. But I thought that Australia really came back hard in their own conditions. They know them so well, even though they lost Hazelwood. Look, they replaced him with another guy that just is another version of, isn't it? And then over the next four tests, they always just felt like they had a neck in front of India, even though it was close at times. But these series, and this is what I love about a series, long-winded way of introducing this, people, bear with me, but the thing about a series I love is that over a 5-match series or an American sport, a 7-match series, you can't fluke a win. The best team wins when you play 5 test matches, and because it's a war of attrition, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's territorial, it's intensely physical, and probably that cost India in the end, losing Bumrah. But would you agree that the best team did win that series?
Absolutely, no doubt about that. A lot of Indian fans will say that until that last day, India was still with the chance of retaining the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
Because a draw would have done that, yeah.
Because a draw would have done, not a win for India in that last test would have done that.
Yeah, and a 2-all draw in the series.
A 2-all draw in the series would have done that. But make no mistake, I don't think, sometimes, we say the scoreline doesn't tell you the full story. And I think this 3-1 scoreline is a perfect representation of which side was the better side in the series. You look at the series on a whole, India had one batter to compete with Australia. Australia had 2. So you had Yashasvi Jaiswal scoring the runs for India, and on the other hand, you had Travis Head and you had Steve Smith scoring the runs for Australia. India had one bowler in Jasprit Bumrah against Australia who put out Hazelwood, Stark and Cummins against them, and then, as you said, replaced Hazelwood with Boland. Yeah. So it was 1 against 3 over there, so it was an imbalance there as well. Australia won all the big key moments that you need to win in a series like this. I trace my mind back right to that second test in Adelaide. India's won the first one by 295 runs. And you think they've got the momentum, but in that second test, when Australia... There was a period when Australia got India all out in that first innings and had to bat in a tricky period. Bumrah had the new ball in his hand, but Nathan McSweeney, Manus Labuschagne rode that wave and just blocked and left.
Yeah.
And, I think that's showed that Australia were up for the fight. Then Travis Head comes and does what he normally does against India. Key moments again. Stephen Smith has been struggling this year in Test cricket. Everyone's saying, is he over the edge? Is his time up? But he finds a way to grind 100, and then he gets a second 100 in the series as well. So all those key big moments, whenever you needed to step up, Australia was the one who stepped up in this series. And India had their key moments. In MCG, you had to just survive a session. You had 7 wickets in hand.
That's right.
And you lose 7 in a session after that. That's where, India lost those big moments and Australia won those big moments.
Yeah, I go back to that 4th test as well. And I think it was the end of the 4th day, wasn't it, where the tail end for Australia batted another 50, another 60 runs, which was absolutely crucial. Because in the end, on that 5th day, it's the difference between chasing a total that is gettable and chasing a total that is just a little out of reach. And it just gave the Australian bowlers that impetus. And I think it was Gary did it, didn't he? He hung around for a long time. And again, it happened in the 5th Test. I mean, it's a titanic series. Are they the 2 best teams in the world playing Test cricket right now?
I mean, you can't say they are the 2 best teams, but they are definitely the 2 teams that the world wants to see playing Test cricket right now.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And I say that because, look, South Africa and Australia have reached the World Test Championship finals. They are the 2 best teams according to the cycle and according to the format that we have. But just the number of people that came in the stadiums, the number of eyeballs on the series, I mean, it captivated
record
the
numbers,
entire cricketing fraternity. You look at all the cricketing pundits and you have the likes of the Englishmen, Atherton and Nasser Hussain and whoever does podcasts all around the world. Everyone had their eyes on this series and they were commenting on it, about the crowds, about the... Yeah, and look, people talk about the Ashes. I've said this long and hard that I think India-Australia is the biggest rivalry in Test cricket at the moment. Right now.
Let's talk about that WTC final. It is time for 11th of June and... I spoke to Scott Wienick, the CEO of New Zealand Cricket, the other day about this. He sits on the ICC board as well. When you've got the England captain Stokes who comes out and says that he's confused by the format, he's frustrated by the format, he's not really that interested in it. He'd actually prefer to play the Ashes series, he'd prefer to play another series. I mean, what does that actually say for it? And I think it devalues as well because you've got South Africa in there who's deliberately sent a C or D grade team here to New Zealand and lost, and yet they can still make the final after doing that. As far as Australia are concerned, I think they deserve to be there. I think that there's not a cricket fan in the world that can genuinely say to themselves, Australia don't deserve to be there. But I don't believe South Africa deserve to be there. That's why I'm saying they're not the 2 best teams in the world. I think India and England especially have a case. And Stokes' point that, hey, we're playing double the tests of everyone else. So how did this work? It's like the Premier League. One team plays 38 games to win it. Another team plays 50 games and ends up 6th. So there's a real imbalance going on there.
A counter to Stokes' argument, though, is that Stokes on air has said that they are the ones who've got the baton of keeping Test cricket alive. They believe Test cricket is alive because of the way they're playing Test cricket and they're bringing crowds into it. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say we play the most number of Test cricket because we want to keep Test cricket alive and then use that as an excuse for saying we are not making it. The blatant truth is, in the last 3 WTC cycles, England have never been close to qualifying for the final. I can understand 1 season, I can understand 2 seasons, but when it happens 3 seasons in a row... Is
that because of the handicap of playing more matches than everyone else, or is that just because they're not winning those matches?
I just don't think they're good enough.
There you go.
Yeah, I just don't think so. And look, even if you look back at records of English cricket, yes, they have started winning, but this team also, the extremities in their performance are so much that they win 2-0 in the series against New Zealand, and in that 3rd test it was an absolute meltdown.
Yeah.
So you can't have performances of those kinds and expect to make. Now coming to South Africa, yes, and I do agree that they didn't treat us well by sending us a team that wasn't really an international side, but they have had 6 frontline bowlers of theirs unavailable to play for them in this cycle. The likes of Lungi Ngedi, Gerald Coetzee, you've got Nandre Berger, Vian Mulder, Lizard Williams, Andrik Nokia, none of them available, yet they managed to find a way to win. In this cycle, in the 2024-2025 WTC cycle, South Africa had 14 centuries scored by their batters by 9 different batters.
These are good stats. I like them.
So they're doing something right there, which obviously is showing. Temba Bavuma, I've got a lot of time for their captain, Temba Bavuma. I was in a press conference when he was close to tears after that 2022 T20 World Cup loss. I think it was to the Netherlands, and they were knocked out of the tournament. And look, he was absolutely in tears, but he is such an honorable man in that dressing room, and he's got the attention and the captivity of that dressing room to such an extent that those players are ready to run through a brick wall for him. And look at the results they're putting through. I just feel that, yes, for commercial reasons or whatever reasons, they didn't send their best side, but I don't think that they are in that final by fluke. They played some good cricket on the way.
I suppose for Test cricket as well that, there is a concern from the ICC, which is why this idea has been floated about, a 2-tier system. I mean, look, which is not going to work for anyone else that's in Tier 2. You're never going to make it up to Tier 1. But is that just, again, commercial reality at the moment? That there's only 5 or 6 teams that are playing good Test cricket at the moment. And the series that people want to watch And you can't deny that these are the teams people want to watch. They want to watch Australia playing England. They want to watch England playing India. They want to watch India playing whoever they're playing. South Africa are obviously competitive, and New Zealand are competitive. Other than that, as much as we want everyone to be on the level playing field, but this is just not the case, is it?
No, this whole thing reminds me of a story that I was told as a kid once. A farmer had a hen, and she used to lay a golden egg every morning.
I like stories.
One day, the farmer decided, why don't I kill the hen and remove all the golden eggs in one day? So guess what he did? He chopped off the hen in the hope of finding all the golden eggs in one go, and he never got another golden egg again. Yes, people want to see India-Australia play. People want to see England and Australia play. People want to see India-England play. But if you give them too much of something, I love ice cream. If I eat ice cream for every meal, am I going to like it the same after? So, you've just got to look at, yes, commercial realities are there. And I know there are test matches, say this Australian side is to play a Zimbabwe side. The test match will be over in 2 days. They'll knock them over.
Most test matches are over in 3 days these days anyway.
So there are commercial realities, but I think some sort of common sense has to prevail that anything of too much is not good.
The only thing I'd say about this two-tier system is, that part of the ICC's responsibility is to develop the game, to foster the game, to build the game, and to hopefully, as I say, level the playing field or build the playing strength. And I just don't see how this does that. It's like, the one-day tournaments or the T20 tournaments where it's, every now and again Afghanistan or a team like that comes through. But, you want T20 cricket, especially, to be a bit like sevens rugby to me, where the top 10 teams in the world can involve an Ireland, can involve a Netherlands, can legitimately involve these teams. And even your Cook Islands might get a scratch at it at some
And I was
time.
just going to say, I know the Cook Islands cricket team well, so I'll give you their example. For us, it is unimaginable to even play one-day cricket at the moment because we just don't get the money for it. To organize a game of cricket takes a lot of time, effort and money. Everybody is a volunteer there. So, for people to invest their whole day in a game, you can't expect them to do that when you're getting peanuts from the ICC every year. So ICC's vision is that T20 is the way forward to develop the game. And then it's up to those associations if they have aspirations of going higher. So the next step for us is to play one-day cricket. We play only T20 cricket at the moment in the Cook Islands. Our next step is to play one-day cricket. Our next step is to have an under-19 team. Our next step is to have a women's team. So doing all of that together is what will build. Test cricket is a distant dream for a lot of nations just because of the commercial realities. And I think but the ones that are playing definitely need to get a chance to play that. I feel sad for someone like in Afghanistan, who've got so much talent, but just don't get an opportunity to ever play Test cricket.
As far as you're concerned, should other countries be boycotting playing them because of obviously what the Taliban have and what they do with the women and things? I mean, there's two arguments around this, isn't there? Do you shut the door? Does that work at all? If you keep the door open, does that work at all?
Look,
you can't blame the cricketers. You can't blame them themselves, can you?
No, the players have nothing to do with it. It's the government there. What I don't like, though, is people saying we are going to boycott them, but yet we'll play them in ICC tournaments.
There you go.
We won't play bilateral series against them, but when they come against us, because
otherwise you default the match and you lose the 2 points.
Exactly.
So it's a very selfish attitude.
So then that's hypocrisy right there for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I have a problem with it. I've got no issues as an Australian or as an English cricket team. If you take the stand, look, we don't like what the Taliban's doing in their country to women, so we are not going to associate with this country and play against them. Great. But do that same thing in world tournaments as well. If you really want to make a statement, that is what will make a statement rather than just not, boycotting them for bilateral
In terms of those tournaments, that's what's called putting your white balls on the line. Let's finish with that because we're talking about the Champions Trophy at 20th of February through to 9th of March. New Zealand team has been announced. I like the confidence from Mitch Santner, the new captain, who's come out and he said, and it's very rare for anyone in New Zealand cricket to do this, but he's really bullish about it. He says, look, we've got a great pace attack. He said, we've got good spin, we've got batting options. And it's all true. It's just unusual for anyone in New Zealand cricket to actually stand up and to say, hey, we are a good team. But in terms of the white ball, our track record over the years has been pretty bloody good, apart from the T20 World Cup last year, which was quite a shameful exit. Do you agree, though, that this looks like a well-balanced New Zealand side?
I like this team. I think after a long time, when you look at the 15, you think every player in that lineup is capable of winning you a game on a given day.
And that's the key.
And that's the
you
key.
Need 4 or 5 or 3 of them to fire at any one time, don't we? And then you can do that.
Absolutely. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about is our draw, because we are in a group with Pakistan, Bangladesh and India. We played tournament hosts Pakistan at home in our very first game.
Yeah,
and a thing that I did say to Mitch Santner at a press conference after the third one-day at Eden Park was, one of the things we kind of didn't do well in that T20 World Cup was we went in cold.
But we went in cold because we chose to go in cold.
Yep. And then Mitch was quite gracious and he said, look, we've learned from that. We've got a Tri-Nation series in Pakistan now. Pakistan, South Africa, the Black Caps playing there. So it's going to be a good warm-up for us in that sense. And he says, one thing is we've realized is you've got to go in hot in these tournaments because you've got 3 games to qualify for the semi-finals.
Yep.
You're 5 games away from winning a potential world title.
We've done it before, 2000, Kenya.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's all to play for. It's a good side. And, I am expecting big things from this team. One last thing, though, before I finish.
Oh, yes.
And I've been wanting to say this for a long, long time. And I wrote this line and I thought this is the best podcast to say it on. Shoulders, Marty, are for carrying the responsibility of your team, not for bumping into opposition players almost half your age.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll leave it at that.
Okay, you go Virat Kohli there. I just want to, can we just finish on Constas? Because this guy, of course, was one of the stars of the series. I thought, young man full of confidence, chancing his arm. He was one miss away from probably never playing Test cricket again. To do that in the first over against Bumrah was just idiotic. He got away with it. He got lucky. A lot of cricketers get done by a Jaffa. They get done by an umpiring decision. They might get run out by their own player. They don't get that. Count yourself. Very fortunate young man. I mean, I love the confidence. I love the talent and everything else. But you keep doing that and the odds are, the percentages are, you're going to come a gutser a lot and look like a loser. Play your Test cricket shots, my friend.
Couldn't agree more with you. If you look at all the legends of Test cricket, the Laras, the Roots, the Tendulkars, none of them ever had to play that kind of a shot. You only play those shots when you don't trust your defense. And if you don't trust your defense, is because you don't have a good defense. You will not survive in Test cricket for long. So unless you pull up your socks, learn to defend the good ones and take care of the bad ones, you will never ever become a Test batter.
Thank you, Rahul.
DSPN.